All right, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Asif Khan. I'm the founder and CEO of a startup out of Toronto called GroundLevel Insights. I am also the founder and chairman of an organization called the Location-Based Marketing Association, which I started 12 years ago, a nonprofit around the geospatial data analytics and location data space. And that's my connection to the VR, AR world. So when Nathan and the group started the VR, AR Association, it was modeled in the early days on what we did at the LBMA. So GroundLevel Insights, we're a company that is really rooted in the physical world. We take anonymous mobile location data from all of your phones, and we basically look at that data and use AI to take that data and model and look for patterns in how people are moving about in the physical world. And so share with you a couple of numbers, first of all, to just kind of get you into the field of location analytics. So 97% of all marketers, agencies, brands that we work with in the location data space, so all those big global agencies and brands are already using location data in some way. And this is a extremely sizable market. So $16.3 billion market right now, growing to a $55.2 billion market by 2031. This is based on research that we do at the Location-Based Marketing Association. And I want to show you, just to kind of get you in the sort of mode of the power of location data and what can be done with it, an example of a project that at the LBMA we were involved in through MasterCard and Waze collaborating in Romania earlier during the pandemic. So here we go.
Vă dăm opită. Cum vedeați până acum poliția pe Waze, așa o să mă vedeți de acum încolo pe mine cu Pita.
A little sample of that. Sorry it's so loud. But when I first engaged with that project and saw the power of helping small businesses, in this case, gain access to a marketplace that they didn't have before, and the simplicity of using something like Waze that many of us use, just to navigate from point A to point B, but to see businesses that, didn't have a storefront or didn't have a place in the past, and all of a sudden they do now, by using location data to do that. The thought that occurred to me and what prompted the work that we're now doing in the Geoverse, what we call the Geoverse or the Metaverse, came from that instance where I said, well, if they could have businesses on Waze and have places to engage with customers there, why can't these same businesses have instances in the Metaverse as well? And so what we do at GroundLevel is, as I said, we take a lot of location signal data, mobile location data, and we collect and buy and license vast quantities of data. We have access to over 12,000 apps around the world: CNN, Starbucks, Uber, Waze, a number of different apps where we pull background location data of where you all are at various times if you use those apps on your phones. We have social media data from Twitter. We have IP location data, research on the internet. We see its origin lat long of where it's coming from. Google Maps queries, cellular network data from AT&T and others around the world. And so we're taking petabytes and petabytes of location data to model and look for patterns in where people are going on a daily basis. We can also plug in sensors, as we just heard about, inside of buildings, be it beacons, Bluetooth sensors, Wi-Fi sensors, you name it. And then we use AI to kind of analyze that data and look for patterns in where people are going. And so we do this to help our clients, which are retailers and restaurant chains and sports teams, understand who's coming to their properties, how often are they coming, where are they going before, where do they go after they leave, how long are they spending in these properties, these kinds of questions. And again, all of this we're doing in the physical world. And we do this in many different verticals, as I alluded to. So we're working with government. As I said, we're based up in Toronto, Canada. So we work with the Ontario government, with Deloitte, with fashion brands like Tom Brown, with the Mall of America, and Starbucks, and many others, including sports teams like the Toronto Blue Jays. And I'm a big baseball fan, so that's kind of where we started in sports. So I want to show you some work that we actually did earlier this year with the Toronto Blue Jays during the regular season. And I'm just going to jump over to our live dashboard model here for a second so that you can kind of get a sense of what we're doing. All right, so basically we sell our solution as a SaaS-based platform, subscription platform. And so here's the Rogers Centre. This is the stadium where the Toronto Blue Jays play baseball. And what you can see here are a series of metrics, as I alluded to. How many people are coming to the stadium? How often are those people coming? Are they one-time, first-time visitors, repeat visitors? How long do they spend here? 2.5 hours on average. What days of the week? What time? Metrics and things like that, are involved with that. And that's interesting data. And I've heard a lot in all the sessions I've been in the last 2 days about the importance of metaverse analytics and, where the analytics going to come from, who's going to develop these analytics. Brands and agencies in the physical world, the guys that we're used to working with, are used to data and analytics, and they're going to demand the same thing when we get to the metaverse. And we're experimenting in that. And so not only do we tell you who's coming to your properties or your environments, as I said, we're tracking everywhere people are going all the time. And so we're able to model that data in the context of before and after behavior as well. So in other words, for people who went to the Rogers Centre to watch a Jays game, we can tell you what bars they went to before they went there, or which bars they go to after. We can tell you what fast food restaurants they're spending time at before or after going to a baseball game, and to what capacity and how many and the frequency and all those kinds of things as well, as you can see here. So it's very detailed in terms of what you can do with the data. And not only can we tell you, the numbers and the sheer volumes of activity, we can actually plot that and measure that in terms of the distance that people are traveling and where they're coming from and things like that as well. So I'll show you an example here. Go back to the actual season when they were playing games, and you can see here over 204,000 mobile devices. So our data in the physical world is based on mobile ad IDs and unique identifiers of the mobile device, all anonymous data. And so here you see a plot around the city of Toronto on that day, and you're seeing 204,000 devices that we're looking at this particular time. And if I drill into where the actual stadium is, where the Blue Jays play, we can narrow it down and we can see devices that are there. And I'll show you what we call the creepy cool button. And this is illustrating the underlying data that powers the system. So, and we show this to show that it's GDPR, California privacy compliant data that we're working with, all anonymous data in what we're doing here. So there's nothing identifiable in the system. And we can even track and show you the path that person traveled that particular day to come from home, perhaps to the actual stadium to watch a game and do those kinds of things. But what's really interesting is when you apply this now to retail and brands. And so one of the questions the Toronto Blue Jays asked us to answer for them is they go out and they sell sponsorship. And so they have all these brands, and you're a fan, and you're sitting in the stadium in person, and you see the advertising on all the boards. We've all been there, right? How many people have been to a game and seen advertising on boards around them, right? And so in the Jays case, they, have a chicken chain called Mary Brown's, very like Popeye's chicken up in Canada. They have Tim Hortons, a big coffee brand. They have all these brands that are sponsors. And these sponsors are spending millions of dollars a year to have their name plastered all over the place. But what they don't know is it effective? How many people sit there at a Blue Jays game, see an ad for Tim Hortons, and then within the next day or week or month go to a Tim Hortons? They don't know. And we can actually tell them, what's happening there. So in this case, for example, if I flip over to Tim Hortons, I can show you here, once it refreshes, the movements around that, and we can see all the Tim Hortons stores plotted. 23.8% of people who went to Jays games also went to Tim Hortons stores. 2.84% of people who went to Jays games went to a Tim Hortons store but had never ever been to one before. So the net lift of that sponsorship and advertising, they're able to measure and look at that. And we can even drill it down and show you down to an individual store level the impact on that. So, I'll zoom in here on the map. These are every Tim Hortons store in the area. And for example, if I click on one of these, you can see here the conversion and the net lift for that one store in that one area. So it's extremely powerful way to visualize and understand what's happening with traffic to your property in the real world, and then sort of the after effects of what's going on around that. Now let's bring this back to the metaverse, or what we call at Ground Level Insights the geoverse. And so we've built a tool essentially to track the same kind of activity that we track in the physical world, but to do that in the metaverse. And we're currently doing that and playing around with Decentraland and Roblox environments in particular, and we're going to be expanding that to others like Sandbox and others in the very near future. And so essentially, just like you saw the metrics that I showed you for traffic, physical traffic to the Rogers Center, now I'm going to show you traffic to a virtual Rogers Center that we spun up on Decentraland. So here you can see, again, total visits, but these are virtual visits to the metaverse version of the stadium. And we're seeing a lot of this in sports. The Atlanta Braves have created a virtual stadium. Manchester City has created a virtual stadium. So it's not new to sports or retail or anything like that, but tracking the activity and who's interacting with it is something that we need to pay attention to, and how long people are spending there. And similarly, not only can we track the traffic, but we have in the dashboard here the player data as well. So let me just let this refresh. And you can see the information about the individual interactions within the metaverse stadium that we've set up here. So these are individual events, entities. You can see the hair color data, the player information, the eye color information, all the stuff that's coming from their avatar, the camera types, and so on. And then the last piece, and this is the part where we get really excited, is what we're trying to do is, because we're rooted in the physical world and looking at people's movements and what stores they're going to and what businesses they're going to every day, if that brand that we're working with, let's say Starbucks or the Blue Jays, has both a virtual store and a physical store or stores, we want to look at the overlap between the two. So how many people go to your virtual Starbucks store also are going to your real Starbucks stores? What is the overlap in that audience? And can we measure the intersection between those two things? And that's essentially what we're doing here. So we're showing total visits, and then we're showing a conversion rate of visitors in your metaverse installation, and how many of those visitors are also your customers in the real world. And so as we heard from several of the recent presentations in the last few minutes, creating these metrics and understanding the metrics that are going to drive this going forward are becoming incredibly important. And this is what brands are looking for. So just yesterday, or within the last couple of days, Lindt Chocolate just announced that they've created an instance in the metaverse. You can go in there and you can explore different chocolate varieties, and you can see what's going on with your. Whoops, sorry, I meant to put that in full play mode. You can see not just what's going on in there. You can interact with the master chocolate maker and all those kinds of things. But Lindt has physical stores, and so we're now engaging with them and talking to them about, okay, what is that overlap? People who are going to play around with your virtual environment, but are those people actually coming and also spending time in your real world stores? Is it the same audience? The assumption is it's not. The assumption is that people who are interacting with metaverse environments tend to be younger or gaming, oriented type of clientele and demographics, and it's not necessarily a one-to-one match. And so we want to actually quantify and measure, what does that actually look like? And the last thing I want to talk to is the idea of digital twins. And we just saw from the previous presentation before me, about the work that they're doing around traffic measurement and looking at creating digital twins and simulations based on accidents and all these kinds of things. And we're working with a company up in Toronto now called Meta World X that's building digital environments. Sorry, that's so loud again. How can I? There we go, look at that. I have control this time. So I'll stop it there, only to say that we're working with Meta World X right now, which is also up in Toronto, and they're creating a digital twin of the entire city of Toronto. And because we already have all the data on everybody's movements, in the city and everywhere else in the world, we're actually going to layer, from a data perspective, what they're seeing in the simulation or the digital twin against what we're seeing in the real world and combine the two data sets together. So it works not just for, my point of that is to say it works not just in a retail environment or a sporting environment or an entertainment environment, but it works to measure anything where there's physical property or physical businesses and you're creating a virtual version or alternative around that. So with that, thank you so much for your time. If you want to experiment with this, if you want to be able, you have clients that are working across both worlds and have physical presence in the real world and are creating virtual presences and you want to measure that, get in touch with us. Thank you.